I remember Mommy's smile. When I was about your age, my mother got very sick. She was sick for a long time and then she died. I miss my mother and I get sad about her. But mostly, I remember good things about her, things that make me happy. I still can see Mommy's face when she smiled at me, and it still makes me feel good. One day, a long time before Mommy got sick, we were in the kitchen together. I was figuring out how old I would be when she turned 75. Mommy helped me do the math. Wow, I said, I'll be 41 when you're 75. If I live to be that old, she said, smiling. Of course you will, I said. Sometimes I think she would still be alive if Mommy and I had never said those things. I know it's not true, but sometimes it just feels that way. I remember the first time I heard the name of Mommy's sickness. I was in the hall waiting for a friend to come out of the bathroom. I was right near the door to my parents' room. The door was closed, but I could hear Mommy and Daddy talking. They were talking about cancer. Later, I asked my parents if Mommy had cancer. She might, they said, but don't be scared. We're not sure yet, and people can get better from cancer. Sometimes Mommy went to the hospital a lot. She had operations, and she had special medicines they gave her to help make the cancer go away. When she came from the hospital, she was weak. But there were other times when Mommy didn't feel sick. She could take me places and play with me, just like she used to. When I visited Mommy at the hospital, she had a lot of tubes going into her arms. It looked scary at first. The doctors used the tubes to put medicines in Mommy's body that made her feel better. After a while, I got used to how she looked at the hospital. When I visited her, I hardly noticed the tubes. I just saw Mommy. I was in a dance recital. I was excited because Mommy and Daddy both could come. I wore a black leotard and black tights. I held a candle and the lights were off for the beginning of the dance, so it looked like the flame was moving and dancing by itself. Mommy loved it. She told me I did a great job and looked beautiful. Mommy looked beautiful too. She wore a light blue outfit and she kept smiling at me. I have a photograph of her from that night, smiling at my dance recital. Mommy was in the hospital again. It was bedtime, but I couldn't fall asleep. I didn't want to be alone. I went downstairs to find Daddy. He was watching TV. I sat in his lap and told him I felt sad about Mommy. I leaned against him and he put his arms around me. We cried together and I didn't feel so lonely. After dinner, sometimes we would call Mommy on the phone. She had a phone next to her bed in the hospital. My brothers and I would crowd around the kitchen phone and take turns talking to her. I told her all about my day. It was exciting when it was my turn to talk. The cancer kept going to new parts of Mommy's body. That's what made her get sicker and weaker. One time when she came home from the hospital, she had trouble using her hand. She was supposed to squeeze a rubber ball to help her hand get stronger. I made sure she remembered to squeeze the ball. A lot of people sent flowers and gifts to Mommy when she was in the hospital. She wanted to send thank you notes, but she could not use her hand to write. She told me what to say and I wrote the notes for her. It was fun to be her helper. My brothers were old enough to go to the hospital by themselves, but I could only go if someone took me. I told Daddy it wasn't fair. I wanted to see Mommy by myself. I wanted to be alone with her, just Mommy and me. The next week, Daddy took me to the hospital and he left me in the room with Mommy. I could only see her face and arms. The rest of her was under the covers. Her face and arms were thin. It made her smile look extra big, even though she didn't have the strength to smile very much. Her body seemed so little that it hardly made a bump under the covers. You look very small, I told her. We played gin rummy together. That was always our favorite card game. Mommy kept falling asleep between her turns, but she still beat me. She was really good at gin rummy. Mommy was going to die soon. The doctor couldn't stop the cancer. Mommy was very weak, but she didn't want to stay in the hospital anymore. She wanted to be at home with us. People came to put a hospital bed in our guest room. It had buttons to make the head and the foot of the bed go up and down, and playing with the buttons was fun. Mommy came home and stayed in the hospital bed all the time. A nurse stayed to take care of her. I came home from school every day as fast as possible so I could be with Mommy. I stayed with her whenever I could. We talked about my school and my friends. We laughed together. I liked having Mommy at home. Mommy was at home in the hospital bed for 3 weeks. Then she suddenly got sicker. She couldn't stop coughing. An ambulance came to take Mommy back to the hospital. Mommy asked me to kiss her goodbye. She was whispering because she didn't have enough energy to talk louder. But Mommy looked and sounded so sick that I was scared to get close. I didn't kiss her. I was scared and sad. I felt bad about not kissing Mommy, even though I knew she understood. That was the last time I saw Mommy. After Mommy left in the ambulance, I got on my bicycle and rode to my best friend's house. "Did you hear the ambulance?" I said. That was my mother going to the hospital. I was crying. My friend and her mother hugged me and stayed with me. I was so glad they were there for me. Grandma was staying with us now. In the middle of the night, I heard the phone ring. Then I heard Daddy in the hall talking to Grandma. Mommy had just died. No one came to tell me. They thought I was still asleep. In the morning, I got up, but I didn't get dressed for school. I sat on the bed and waited. Daddy walked in and sat next to me. He looked very tired. "Mommy died last night," he said. I didn't tell him that I already knew. "The people at the hospital called to say she died," he said. "After they called, I wrote something about Mommy that the rabbi will read at the funeral." He gave me my own copy of the words he wrote. "Do I have to go to school?" I asked. "No," Daddy said quietly. The day Mommy died, people started coming over. My aunt came in crying. My brother's best friend was so upset that he left school and came to our house. We all sat on the green sofas in Daddy's study, which felt cozy and safe. My brother and I used to make forts out of the sofa cushions, and Mommy and Daddy would laugh with us there. It was a place with happy memories. Even though we were so sad that day, we talked about normal things. Sometimes we even smiled and laughed, especially when we talked about special times we remembered with Mommy. At the funeral, the rabbi read the words that Daddy had written. When he talked about Mommy, my big brother started crying. Then I started crying. A man who worked at the funeral parlor came over and grabbed my hand to take me out of the room. I didn't want to leave. My aunt was sitting behind me and she held on to my shoulders. I kicked the man's legs to make him go away. At the cemetery, the casket with Mommy's body looked big. With Mommy's body inside looked big. It was made of pretty, shiny wood. The rabbi led a service where we said some prayers. Then some men who worked at the cemetery lowered the casket so it went slowly into a deep hole in the ground. It looked like it was going really, really far away. I asked my brother, if she's supposed to go to heaven, why do they put her so far under the ground? He said, her heaven is in the memories of the people she left behind. I understood what he meant. We still had Mommy because we remembered her, and she still had us. When people shoveled soil into the casket, it made a thud. It was a kind of scary sound, but it also made everything seem real. Mommy really was gone, and her body really was being buried. It didn't just feel like a bad dream anymore. After the funeral, people came to my house. Some of my friends came with their parents. They tried to make me feel happier by telling me jokes. I didn't like it. I didn't want to feel happy, and I didn't want to laugh. I was sad, and I wanted that to be okay. My best friends understood how I felt and let me be sad. One week after Mommy died, I went back to school. Everyone knew what had happened. Some of my friends were uncomfortable talking to me. They didn't know what to say. Some kids who weren't my friends told me they were sorry about my mother dying. It was weird at first to have everyone acting so different. But after a while, my friends got comfortable again. Even though I was sad about Mommy, I had fun with my friends. People helped with the things Mommy used to do. Daddy had someone take care of the house and cook dinner for us. We became friends, and it felt good to have her at home every day. When I needed to get new school clothes, Mommy wasn't there to take me shopping anymore. My grandmother took me instead. We went to lots of stores, and she let me get almost anything I wanted. She said it was fun going shopping and spending Daddy's money, and then we both laughed. I learned to help a lot at home. Mommy had taught me about cooking even when I was really little, so I made some meals. I got better about cleaning my room. It felt good to do my part. Most of the time, I feel happy and I have a lot of fun. Sometimes I really want to talk to Mommy or hug her, and I miss her a lot. Whenever I need her, I remember Mommy's smile.